Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bovine. I'm your host, Kara Mastel, digital content specialist at ABP, and I am happy to have you here for the ride. So I debated whether saying anything on this podcast, as I know no one likes a bride that can only talk about their wedding, but I recently got married and changed my last name. In case you were all confused, I am still Kara Oosterhuis at heart. I am the same host. I just have a different last name. Okay, so now that we made it through that, today's podcast is an exciting one. As announced on July 8th, 2024, we have new winners for the Environmental Stewardship Award. The Environmental Stewardship Award is recognized annually by ABP and highlights a specific cattle producer whose natural resource stewardship practices contribute to the environment as well as enhance productivity and profitability. It's an opportunity for ranchers to share their environmental practices and highlight the beef industry's positive impact on the environment. You know, we often talk in agriculture how it's so hard to share positive stories sometimes. Sometimes the negative ones are the loud ones we hear. And I'm here to tell you this is a positive story. I have a positive story for you guys, so just keep listening. It is a fantastic one. I am happy to introduce this year's winner is the Taylor family of Warner, Alberta. I had the opportunity to visit and tour the Taylor's operation earlier this year to really get an inside look into all the things they're up to. And let me tell you, it is a really cool operation. You know, in the movies, when you watch those old westerns and you see the rolling hills, and you're just like, man, what a beautiful shot. That is the Taylor's operation. It is such a beautiful place. And like I said, they really have a lot of neat things going on. I, however, will let them speak for themselves. Joining me on this episode of the Bovine today are two very special people.
Clayton Taylor, I'm 21, born and raised on the ranch.
Where's the ranch located?
West of Warner, Alberta.
And I also have here with me...
My name is Courtney Taylor. I'm 23, and I would like to take this opportunity to clarify that we do not specialize in speckled part cattle. However, it just so happened that she happened to cab by the road on the day that they were here, so they were a very well photographed pair.
So for a little background here, I have two of the winners of the 2024 ESA, that's Environmental Stewardship Award. We just actually viewed the video of which you guys can find on our website, but we just viewed the video that we made from the Environmental Stewardship Award. And in it was much to Clayton's dismay, in it there was Courtney's speckled park. Tell me about your speckled park.
I like a little bit of color, a little bit of pizzazz. However, it's definitely the herd marker cow, and she just so happened to calve right along the road, and she had probably the loudest colored calf that I've ever seen in my entire life.
And we caught it on camera.
Oh yeah, we caught her all on camera.
I'm going to stick with a no comment. We take great pride in having mostly black cattle, but a odd herd marker don't hurt nobody.
So who's we that we take? Do you take pride in the black cows, or as a whole, you guys?
I think as a whole we do, but Courtney sure likes her herd markers.
As a whole, we take a lot of pride in our mama cow herd. We try pretty hard to have a cow that works for the ranch and makes good beef. That's what we're here for. But
when you take the hide off a cow, it doesn't really matter the color of it.
Talk about your operation out here. You guys are the for lack of a better word, you're the successors of the operation. There's 4 kids in your family, but you two are the youngest, and you're working towards, well, you are a part of the ranch. Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I don't know, we're trying to just slowly taking over with the day-to-day operation, and Courtney's looking into the books a little bit more than I am.
Kind of like mold on cheese. We just grow on you, you know? But yeah, I would say that right from the get-out, we were just born into it. One of my first memories is a ranch milk cow walking over top of me in the barn when we were working with bottle calves, and I started doing Holsteins, and I was about 9 doing 4-H, and just kind of whatever we wanted to do, we got the opportunity to do so long as we fed it and took care of it, and that's kind of continued.
So was there ever any doubt you were coming back to the ranch? Were either of you, that was always your plan?
No, that was always my plan for sure. I wanted to go on a bit of a walkabout, experience life off the ranch, but absolutely always come back. I love this place.
I love it, but I decided that I wanted to go to school in Saskatchewan because if I was going to come back, I wanted to go do something different and make sure that's what I really wanted to do. So, yeah, that's what I did, and I chem repped for a couple summers and enjoyed it and learned lots, but it just didn't compare to coming home and playing with cows.
Talk about that experience, though, why you thought it was important to leave and get some outside knowledge and experience.
Well, there's a lot of people to learn from and a lot of different opportunities that, as much as I love this place, you just can't get going out and checking cows. Like I competed in the Society for Range Management quite heavily in high school and then again in university, and really enjoyed it and met some really cool, awesome mentors that I just wouldn't have been able to meet without going through that in the university experience. So that was really, really, really cool and something that I'll take forward with me.
And sometimes probably important too. I know my parents always said, you need to work for someone else other than us.
Yeah, that too. I custom calved for a fellow in Saskatchewan for a calving season. Man, did I have fun with that. I learned a lot and, again, made another really good friend and mentor.
And Clayton, you talked about a walkabout you took as well. Where was the walkabout?
Oh, pretty much everywhere. I went to the Northwest Territories and wrangled sheep and caribou and moose hunts. I went and worked on the gang ranch in BC for a calving season. I did some custom calving for Dwayne Nelson and Myron Mahatrick, kind of all over, just not long-term jobs, but learned a lot in all those opportunities and traveling around and just different ways to do things, whether it's the good way or the bad way, but one way to do it for sure.
Absolutely.
You always learn something, whether it's maybe what not to do.
Yeah.
You'll learn something.
Yeah, exactly. Was there any eye openings that you took away that you were like, oh, this is a really unique way to do this?
Just how hands-on you can be with the cattle or hands-off with the cattle. You can either make the cattle work for you or you can work for the cattle. That was a real eye-opener for me. Since we've always calved later, I didn't realize how intense you can be in January and calving in January, right? In February and even March or April, how hands-on it can be.
Yeah, you get those heavy winds and snow in January, and that is a whole different ball game.
Oh, you're with those cattle 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is no stopping, right?
So you guys ranch obviously still with your parents, Robert and Audrey, who you also are winners of the ESA award, but of course they said you guys are podcasting. That seems like a Clayton and Courtney thing to do. So I got Clayton and Courtney on today, but talk about how you guys kind of split the operation up. Now it's quite widespread and there's a lot of different things going on here. How do you guys all split it up?
I don't know. It's slightly in divisions, but not really. We absolutely help each other every day if needed, but we kind of just do our own things and maybe have coffee in the morning together, make a bit of a game plan if one of us is going to go fencing and he needs someone to drive, or Courtney needs help tagging a calf or just moving cows. We go help each other.
I'd say it's kind of split up according to interest too. Like if somebody's going to go be a mechanic and do something in the shop, it's probably going to be Clayton, whereas if somebody's messing around in the barn, it's likely going to be me. And then we split up according to our calving groups too, so that kind of not necessarily shifts the blame, but you're in charge of this, right? And then if something goes wrong, well, you're the point man, you're running point. You know what's going on in that particular field with that particular cow, and you can call in help as needed. Or if you don't need help, that's fine too.
Anyone who's seen the video will see this as well. You guys tend to tackle things a little bit differently too. Courtney, I know you're big on the quads, and Clayton, you're a cowboy. Talk about how you guys figure that all out too.
It's just preference, really. It doesn't really matter either way to me. I just really enjoy using my horses in the art of working cattle off horseback, but it's also physically demanding to ride a horse, and it's not for everybody, but so is riding a quad. I'm pretty sore after a long day of fencing on a quad as well, right?
I think like for us, it just depends on what gets the job done. We don't have 6 hired hands. We don't tend to bring on a lot of outside help, so it's efficiency is what works for you and what works for everybody, because all of us run our own dogs, and that's where a lot of the help comes in. Is if you need help moving cattle through a gate or pulling dry or heavies out of a field, well, you're using your dog. You don't need a second person. And I think that's mostly what it comes down to, is preference and efficiency as to what gets something done and what the job calls for, right? Like we use all horses in our brandings. We rope and drag to North Forks. For daily checking, for the most part, me, Dad, and Mom are entirely quads.
And talk about the dogs. Like, I don't think a lot of people really, unless you are fully involved in an operation that has dogs, like they really are a second person there with you. sometimes 2 or 3, I think you could count a dog for.
Oh no, a good dog's worth 3 in the saddle. Absolutely, they're a huge part of our operation. We would not be able to run the ranch the way we do without our dogs.
Oh no, my broke dog, he's worth his weight in gold, and he's a little bit of a goofy critter, but he sure is handy.
Do you guys, have you always had dogs growing up? That was always a part of the operation?
Yeah, we've always had dogs.
Yeah. Our parents had dogs at young age as well, and always been into working dogs. Absolutely.
Mostly border collies.
So talk about that process of training them too, and finding the good genetics for, like, these aren't just any dogs you're just finding roaming.
Well, my dog, when I was 15, I was chasing Holsteins around a feeder. And I got so tired of doing it because they were playing peekaboo with me as I was trying to do my evening chores. And I got so bloody tired of it that I said I wanted a dog. And at that point in time, we were expecting a litter out of my mom's good female and my dad's good male. So Franny and Toad. And I said I wanted a male out of that litter. And sure enough, when they were born, there was only one male. So that's my dog. And right from the get out, I had a real good family friend come out, and he trained dogs professionally for quite a few years. He come out once a week, and we worked dogs. And that's how I trained Jack, and I cannot thank him enough for his experience and help training Jack and getting me started on that. Yeah, so that dog, he's a bit of a legacy, and it's kind of cool how that works too, because he's my parents' dogs put together and then trained by a mentor who I very much admire and very much appreciate his time. And so even the dogs are a family heirloom almost. And Clayton has a Kelpie.
And Clayton has a Kelpie. Clayton, can you tell us your Kelpie's name?
I got a Kelpie named Dog, D-A-W-G. I just got him from a family friend as well. I seen my dog's dad working at a grazing co-op, and I'm like, yeah, I could use one of those. That's pretty handy. So I got a pup off him, and training wasn't as smooth. We had some rough days and some good days. Maybe we still do have some good and bad days, but he sure is a lot of help to me, and I just got a pup out of him as well, actually. And his name's Pup. He's just 15 weeks now, but hopefully he'll turn out to be another good dog as well.
I know when we were here recording the video for the ESA, one of the things your dad and I, Robert, were standing and we were watching you with your dog and the horse, and I forget what your dog was doing, but he's going, it's Clayton's dog. I wouldn't be letting him do that, but I guess it's Clayton's dog. So
yeah, they definitely don't like some of the things my dog does
But I would say that all of our dogs do stuff that the other person doesn't like. It's not that necessarily one dog is better than the other, but stylistically, I don't like Mom's dogs.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy working Mom's dogs, and she loves them, and she thinks that my dog is the silliest critter to ever walk the face of the earth. But we get a lot of stuff done with everybody's dogs. It's all preference. The same way with the horse, same way with the quads. Even your dogs come through in personality.
And they're very much your guys' dogs. Like, I watch you guys walking throughout the yard and hopping on your quads and moving around, and each of your dogs is always right there ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
My dog doesn't even come when Clayton calls him.
No, he just smiles at me.
He's like, yeah, you're the little brother. We don't talk to you.
No.
One of the things you guys really pay attention to out here, I mean, it's gorgeous. I really can't paint a picture enough of how beautiful it is out here. And there's a lot of wildlife and a lot of different things going on out here. Talk about wildlife conservation and how that's so important to you guys in your operation, that we're not just getting rid of all the animals out here.
I would say, as far as wildlife conservation goes, it is intentional. However, it's almost a side effect, because when you really start to manage your grass and you really start to manage for more biodiversity in your species and better riparian areas and just better grass management.
Like the take 50, leave 50 we really strive for, right?
Those same things that you're really improving for your cattle, improve the habitat for the wildlife. And yeah, we do quite a bit of fencing and being aware of what we're doing and where we're doing it and how this could possibly affect all these species. But for the most part, it's just good management, and it all comes full circle.
Dive a bit more into the take 50, leave 50, what that means.
Just with the grass. You got to be out there, try to be out there several times a week or even every day, watching the grass and watching where the cows are grazing and how far. They're obviously going to graze harder around your water sources, but if you manage your fields properly and
salt blocks too.
Yeah.
mineral licks.
Yeah, getting your salt blocks away from the water sources and roads and spots they're going to frequent to make them travel around the fields. You can really get them to graze the field evenly.
And that depends on your livestock class too, because what we'll do with our replacement heifers lots of time is try and skim graze them. So we've got some tame grass that kind of snuck into some pastures that got broke at one point in the sloughs, and so you got Kentucky bluegrass and a little bit of brome. On one particular pasture that we do this in, they rolled some brome bales down the coulee to feed in the wintertime, and at that point in time that was totally normal. But now you can see exactly where these brome bales were, because that's where the smooth brome is kind of overtaking it. And so we'll throw yearling heifers or steers or something out, and they'll go and take the tops off of all the tame grass. And so then it doesn't go to seed. But a mama cow with a calf, like a brand new calf, because they'll be quite young by the time that the smooth brome heads out, she can't make it up that hill. She doesn't get to the top, and you can't blame her. And so these hills, this particular field that I'm thinking of, they're quite steep, and it's actually a little bit of work to get up them. But a yearling, she's going to circle the field 3 times in a day just because she's bored anyway, so she might as well be doing some good for biodiversity.
So how do you move the cows? Is there lots of different pastures you have that are fenced off, or you just tend to keep them to one area through the salt blocks and through troughs?
Well, almost, I'd say most of our fields are a section. Some are a little bigger, some are a little smaller. But for the most part, we work really hard to have enough water in different areas. And then if we don't have a water in that particular area, lots of times we'll throw a mineral out or a salt block or whatever. And when we're doing that, we kind of look for a particular species pattern. If you see some weeds, that's kind of where you chuck your salt block. It's always a rotating area, so you don't pound in one area too hard, because they can be kind of hard on an area, but if you give it time to rest and recover, it'll always come back.
So is there a certain height you're aiming for when it comes to grass? Is that how you measure, or how do you measure when, it's been grazed enough and you need to move?
I really watch the low spots, because it's pretty much semi-irrigated. And when they get all those low spots nipped off pretty hard, you can start to look at the native, and they're just starting to hit the native pretty hard, and that's typically when we move them, because those low spots come back so fast, and after they get those low spots grazed down, they hit the native just for a little bit. It seems to be that's enough.
You also have some projects with Ducks Unlimited, people like that. Talk about some of the different organizations you work with.
So Alberta Conservation Association has been a really big help for us. They've helped us with some fencing projects and a lot of water projects. We really appreciate their help and what they do. There's a lot of projects that we wish we could do as a family, and it just doesn't happen due to time and money constraints, because you just can't do everything all in a year, right? But all these projects, we've had great ideas, and we've been plugging away and getting lots of them done. But you get a little bit of help from organization like Alberta Conservation Association, all of a sudden you can get them done a lot faster, and it's really neat to see.
Yeah, and with Ducks Unlimited, we did a couple big projects. We did 39 plugs across the ranch. So in the 70s, they drained a pile of sloughs all across the ranch, to make some of the bigger sloughs bigger, but also to do some farming. And then I believe it was 2021. Ducks came to us and they gave us an opportunity. We plugged all these sloughs, and now all the drains and stuff, these sloughs came back this year and they look wonderful. All the plugs are reseeded and they're full, and they're great duck habitat and more water sources for the cows.
I think Dad did go to Ducks. I don't think Ducks came to us.
Oh, yes.
But yes, clarify that with the powers that be.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anyone else you work with, or those are the two main organizations?
In the past, we've worked with Multisar, and I'd say just as member organizations, we try and attend lots of the Foothills Forage Associations, and I'm fairly involved in the Society for Range Management. Not necessarily that those are involved in the ranch, but lots of times you can go to some of those events and get a lot of really cool ideas and bring them home, and then all of a sudden it is like they are involved in the ranch, because when you go and look at everybody else's water troughs and everybody else's systems and how they work, all of a sudden you can go, oh, well, that works better than what I'm doing. Right?
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah, and talk about the importance of community in that way, and learning from each other.
I would say that importance comes down to just an appreciation for what everybody else is doing. We're living in a very, very unique lifestyle, and having people to bounce ideas off of and things to learn, people to learn from, is a really big part of that. It's a changing world, but also it never changes. that's a lot of what I think grazing management is using newer technology to keep it the same.
Family. Obviously, it's very important. You guys don't have outside help, really. It's mostly the four of you guys, and I'm sure your other two siblings come and help out sometimes too. Talk about the importance of communication within the family too, and like you said, sitting down, having that coffee in the morning, and figuring out your game plan, or maybe your vision for what this place could be or will be.
Safety would probably be our biggest thing with communication. A lot of the ranch doesn't have cell phone service, so we definitely try to be like, hey, I'm going to go check my cows. If I'm not back in a couple hours, maybe
someone come look for me.
Yeah, I'd greatly appreciate it if I'm on foot or whatever.
I would say, too, anybody who's ever worked with their family knows how contentious it can be at times. Mm-hmm. Especially after a long day of sorting cows, just nobody's talking to each other. Coming back from that, too, is recognizing that, you know what, sometimes not everybody means what they say when they're sorting cows.
Yeah. And I had a really great piece of advice given to me once where somebody said, what happens out on the farm or the ranch or whatever, you can't bring back to the kitchen table. And I'm sure you do sometimes, because that's easier said than done. Yeah. But I think it's really important to recognize sometimes that, like, yeah, okay, we all need some time to breathe here, but come breakfast tomorrow morning, we're all back at it.
And the thing again that's particularly interesting about this ranch is our kitchen table really is the business spot.
Yeah.
Like, this is where everything goes down. And so I wouldn't say that we don't bring business to the kitchen table, because this is where we discuss stuff, but it doesn't go to the living room.
Yeah. There you
go. We've gotten better. Our parents have really handed us the reins. Like, when sorting replacement heifers, it was me and Courtney making the call. She was running the gate and I was pushing cattle to her. And obviously our parents were there, but they're super good about handing us the reins with everything.
And I would say, too, about bulls is lots of people, and I didn't realize this until I went to school. This was something that I found really neat, was how many people don't have a say in their family place. Is me and Clayton, and Kaiser and Trina, too, is we all got handed a bull catalog when we were 5 or 6, like, could write a check mark kind of deal.
Yeah.
And we'd go around and walk around the bullpen. Nobody would talk to each other. Quite serious.
Yeah.
Especially when you're little. It's quite serious.
6, yeah.
Unless you needed someone to push the bull past you to see how he walked. That's about all.
But we'd all have our own bull catalogs in our own pen, and we'd go mark up our catalog. And the deal is that if you have 1 check mark, you're not going to buy them. If you have 2, you might consider them. 3, you're going to bid on the bull. And 4, you're going to buy the bull. And so if everybody likes them, that's kind of the deal. It's all an equal say. And that doesn't happen in a lot of places, and we're pretty lucky that way.
Absolutely, very fortunate.
And I think one of the things, because your mom had told me this story as well, and I think one of the things also was then if you bought that bull, you had to help take care of it as well. Like, that wasn't just buying, forgetting about it. You guys came home and then you paid attention to the bull too.
The bulls are kind of communal property just because of the way they are, but like, I have a Brahma cow. I decided that I fell in love with them down in Texas. I visited my great aunt down there, and I just love them. And so I found a fellow by Irricana who's breeding purebred Brahma cows. And so at that point, I couldn't drive. And me and Mom, we went and got my Speckle Park 4-H steer in this purebred Brahma heifer, and that's what we were going to do that day. And I had the Brahma cow for probably 5 or 6 years, and I've got a couple Brangus daughters left off her, and that was my Brahma. And I took care of her, and that was my cow, and I have her daughters and her granddaughters, and it's kind of a science experiment now to see how long it takes to breed out the ears. But they're actually really good cows. Like, you'd never ever guess, but they're pretty rangy.
They're maternal, that's for sure.
But my point is that you get to follow whatever you want, right? Is if you have the 4-H money and you were responsible with it and saved, well, then go buy a Brahma.
4-H, a big part of your guys' upbringing too?
Very much so.
Yeah, huge in growing our personal cow herds. Our parents have always let us have a small personal herd of our own and keep as many replacement heifers as we can, kind of deal. And that's basically what started both of our herds, was our 4-H cows.
Yeah, no, when my oldest sister started 4-H, we all got purebred heifers. That was the deal, is that Kaiser started 4-H and got a purebred Angus heifer, and we all got purebred Angus heifers, the same deal, and it was all even Kevin. And my first cow, she built my herd. My cows are all vinegars and lilies, And those are all her daughters and granddaughters, and it's pretty cool that you can hit it right out the bat too.
And mine was kind of the same way. I actually got I think it was a bottle calf from my grandpa, and I bottle fed it up, and we brisket tagged it her 140, and now I tag all of her daughters 140 or 141, and I have several generations. I have great granddaughters of that cow now, in my herd.
It's amazing. We always talk about farming and ranching as such a family thing that, you're passing down generations to generations, but it works within the cow herd too. Like they're sticking around for generations, and
yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's something that's really, really cool about this particular cow herd is we don't tag everything. Like we brisket tag our replacement females as they're picked as replacement females, but we don't tag everything as calves. And so if you're tagged, there's a reason we're keeping track of you. So I've got a U cow in my cow herd and a W in my first set of cows, and they both had heifer calves. So I'm just over the moon excited. And we do keep our own bulls off of our own herd now. We're pretty particular about what genetics come into the herd and what stays, because we're pretty worried about feet. Just how we run our cattle. There's not a lot of purebred guys that run cattle similarly. And so what works for our operation doesn't necessarily work for everybody else. But lots of these bulls that we're keeping, they're off of those U cows, they're off of the W cows, they're off of the Vins, the Lilies, and the Bobbies. That's what they are, right? They're almost family in and of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, for lack of a better word, we're in the middle of nowhere, just how you guys would like it, I'm sure. We all ranch and farm because we probably actually would prefer to be out here in the middle of nowhere than in the middle of the city. Talk about how this brings back to your local communities, though, how to farm and to ranch around. That's what keeps the communities alive.
Mom did a lot of community work, especially when we were little. She did a lot of hot lunch, and she's got her class 1, so she was able to drive all the buses everywhere for volleyball and basketball and all those sports that we did when we were little. I think she drove everybody to badminton and Medicine Hat one time for us.
Yeah.
But she was a leader in the 4-H club for a long time, and obviously now we're all out of 4-H, and she's since stepped back. But I think that once Clayton or I eventually have a couple kids, then we'll probably be in the same boat. But at this point, we're kind of in that transitionary phase. We're involved in the community, but you're not involved in the school anymore, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a weird spot to be. You're like, you go to town, you're like, I don't actually know the kids right now.
Yeah.
I saw the grad pictures, and I'm like, I don't know anybody in there.
Okay, so the reason we are here is the Environmental Stewardship Award. Talk about what this means to you and your family. I know, of course, it has thrown you guys all in the spotlight, that maybe don't love the spotlight again. We live out in the middle of nowhere because we don't love the people. But talk about what this means to be recognized for an award like this.
It's just an honor, really.
I would say that it is an honor, but it's also an honor to be representative of good in the industry. That means a lot to us. We try really hard to do our best by our cattle and our land and everybody that we interact with. And so to be recognized for that means a lot. But just setting forward, not necessarily a good example, but a good touch point. Because a lot of people are so removed. We live in the middle of nowhere. It's not exactly like somebody can just stumble across ranches and know what's going on, right? And so this does kind of provide an opportunity
to the public to be knowledgeable about the ranching industry.
Elaborate more on the importance of sharing your story and sharing it in the right way. We can sometimes ranching gets a bad rap. We can't get around it, but we need to tell this story and talk about why that's important.
There are a lot of amazing operators out there. I'm not trying to take credit away from the work that we've done on this ranch and the work that my parents in particular have done. But there's a lot of incredible ranchers out there and a lot of awesome mentors that have won this award. Like, if you look in the Foothills Forage membership list, there's a lot of recipients of this award in there. And there's a lot of really cool operations that you can take a lot from, but you don't see them. And so from a public perspective, it's a unique opportunity to be able to showcase what we do and as managers what we're striving for, because we do consider a lot of the common concerns and we do try our best to address those in our management practices. But sometimes we win, and sometimes we win and it's just not publicized.
Taking care of the land, so important to you guys in your operation right now, but also, as you guys mentioned, there's potential, if you choose to do so, to have kids in the future, to have families in the future. Talk about why taking care of the land is important for that too.
Well, it takes, once you break up native or damage native, it takes years to come back, or if it even ever does come back, it's never quite the same, right? So if we can preserve, that's the word I was looking for, the native grass and the ranching industry, and the art of horseback, or the art of the aluminum quad.
Hey, leave my aluminum stallion out of this.
Does your aluminum stallion have a name?
No, just a Honda. But besides that point, I'm not really sold on kids myself, but it's not important for my kids. It's just important that it exists.
Yeah,
because
for everyone's kids.
For everyone's kids. Because this is literally a disappearing landscape, and it's disappearing at a rate that's actually terrifying. Because it's never going to come back, and there is no possibility of it coming back. If it does creep back a little bit at a time, just a couple inches, and man, it's nice to see, but phlox moss takes 100 years. So it's not coming back. If it gets broke up in my lifetime, it's not coming back for my kids or somebody else's kids. Maybe their grandkids might see it. And
if it's taken care of properly.
If it's taken care of and is tried to reclaim. That's not to say that there's anything wrong with any other form of agriculture, but we do appreciate what we do and what that looks like in a rarity environment, you know?
So, I mean, you guys are both very humble people. I mean, Courtney would say Clayton is not humble. However, you guys are a very humble family. Talk about, like, do you have any advice for maybe young producers that are in this situation and they'd really like to get into environmental stewardship? They, maybe they're part of an operation that hasn't really paid attention to it and they're going, you know what, I'm coming into the operation and we're going to change things. Any piece of advice?
I would say that one of the most important things that has been eased just because of the fact that our parents are quite progressive is not coming in and stepping on toes. And this is something that I try really hard to bring across, is that it's not that what everybody before you was doing was wrong. But now there's new technologies that could maybe make it better, or there's new science, or there's new studies that maybe you could try something different. Because my parents, they come here with Simmental cows with like the fleck face Simmental cows, white udder, the whole deal. And there's nothing wrong with those cows. For somebody in Edmonton, that's awesome. If that's what you enjoy, those are your cattle, they do well for you, that's great. For us, they didn't work. And so it's not that those cattle are bad. It's not that somebody who has those cattle are doing something wrong. Because our little Angus cows, somebody would put them up in nose-high grass in Edmonton, and they'd think that they weren't performing right, and they weren't fitting into their operation. So there's nothing wrong with change. Change is scary. Change is terrifying. But we can also recognize that it's not that what was going on is necessarily wrong, but maybe there's ways that we can improve it. What your specific land, what your specific operation, because it's all dependent, and it does change. If there's, like, just for example, because I started with the fleck face, now we have those, the what I would consider a Simmental, which would be a solid black or a red Simmental. They fit into a different operation. They fit into a different niche. And they don't necessarily fit into our niche, but I really enjoy them. I respect them. I appreciate them as cattle, and I respect the people who work with them. But it just maybe isn't here, right?
You're going to fall on your ass quite a bit. You make mistakes, just learn from them. Try and learn from other people's mistakes or what they're doing right as well. Our parents have been pretty fortunate. I know my dad, I've came up with ideas, and he's done those ideas and kind of knew they weren't going to go over too well, but he's like, well, give her a shot, little buddy. And I gave her a shot and she didn't work, or maybe it did work this time. And they've been pretty good about that, about letting us
fall on our faces,
yeah. But also helping us get back up pretty quick.
Very much so. And we very much appreciate the support that we've gotten from our parents, because there's been some times where it's like, that was a dumb move. And you did tell me that, but now we're here.
Here we are.
The rope to be able to make those mistakes is huge, and probably huge as generations come, because you'll give the next generation the ability to do that as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it helped too, coming from starting really young, is we weren't making huge mistakes when we were little, but those mistakes were definitely learned from.
Oh, hitting your finger with a hammer, you learn to run a hammer a little faster, or maybe not put your finger on the head of the nail.
But if you're swinging when you're 6, you can't break your hand.
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah.
That's kind of where the start is, I guess.
Yeah. Any future goals for either yourselves or for the ranch?
Probably just expand.
I would say genetics-wise is maintain and or improve our cow herd. Because it's actually, we've gotten to the point where our cows are exactly what you need. And so then you're worried about
what we need.
What we need.
Yeah.
For our operation, we're very, very proud of our cow herds and very, very proud of what we produce. And so in order to maintain that or even improve it a little bit is really important when you're bringing in outside genetics, because you don't necessarily know what you're bringing in. So we try really hard. That's kind of where I've got some old semen in an AI tank that I'm pretty excited to use. Hopefully we're going to get some bulls with just that old school genetics that they've proven themselves. They've proven themselves for the last 40 years because the granddaughters of those bulls are now in production, right? And so if you can have granddaughters of those bulls in production and see them, then you know what you're going to get in 40 years, right? It's just kind of a different way to use new technology and old genetics to maintain or improve, right?
We don't exactly have to reinvent the wheel every time.
No. Sometimes there's a reason the wheel is round.
Yes. But speaking of new technologies, things like that, anything catching your eye that's maybe out in industry right now that, like technology-wise, that you could see implementing potentially?
No, there's always new technology I'd like to get into. Maybe a bit of an online grazing calculator. I was looking into, it was an app that we drew out the ranch and we can move the cows on the app and to keep track of them. I'd like to get maybe more into that to be able to keep track of our grazing records.
And we do keep track of our grazing records, just a side note, but it is all on a notebook and written down in paper. And so if everybody could add to it or move stuff around, that would be really cool just from your phone, because 20-somethings, we always have our phone on us.
Yeah.
You talked about kind of moving into the books as well. Is that all on paper right now?
For the most part, yeah. Yeah, I'd say that the only thing that's pretty well electronic that moves right to my phone is my game cameras. And that is a technology that I would highly recommend. We use it to check water troughs, and those work pretty slick.
Yeah, they work great for us. Cellular game cameras just send us a picture a couple times a day of a cow at a water trough, and it's more time management for us. We know that trough's working, so we don't got to get around to X amount of troughs a day.
Well, I was checking the troughs in 3 or 4 different locations from Saskatoon from my bed. I check them all in the morning before I got up and started going to class. So it's just something that you can have that peace of mind. You know exactly what's going on, and it's literally right there.
Ever see any surprising wildlife on the cameras?
I've got a deer that she's living right there, and I see her ear, and then I'll see her head, and then I see her wander around, and it's really fun when it's fresh snow. Because lots of those water troughs, they're perfect places for rabbits to hide underneath. So I'll get jackrabbit families living underneath the water troughs because you can see their tracks and you see the jackrabbits, and then you see a coyote chasing the jackrabbit. Yeah, you kind of get the critters lifestyle a little bit because those game cams, they don't move, right?
And now critters, we have to talk about some of the critters you guys have going on here because there's a lot of different animals here.
At this point in time, and that's not saying that in past we haven't had pretty much everything other than llamas. We've got cattle, obviously, sheep, a rabbit farm, chickens, dogs, cats. Am I missing anything at this point in time? We're fairly tame right now.
We had a pet skunk. Well, not really. It was just living in the chicken house, and we couldn't get it to leave.
I think it's still in there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mom named it Daisy.
Oh, great. And on the dog front, you guys also have some guardian dogs. So they live just with the sheep?
Yes.
That's their purpose?
Yes, I have 2 Kangol guardian dogs. They live with the sheep full time.
Okay, anything else? Do you guys feel like there was any part of the video? So we watched the video. Was there anything you were like, this happened in the background, we should have had that in there? Did we miss anything?
I don't know. I'd just say the vastness of how untouched this landscape is.
Because how big is the whole property?
There's about 20 sections here at the home place. Yeah. But then there's just a huge area here of the heritage rangeland that there's like one road to it. 2 if you count our driveway. There's like 4 townships here with very few houses and roads. It's awesome.
It truly is. You look out the window, it truly is cattle country out here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I know. The one thing that I would just like to kind of take the opportunity to is to thank everybody. It's not just one day that this happens, right? And it's a lot of build up and a lot of folks that come out for a day, right? And come help fence because they were bored during COVID or whatever, right? But
a community.
It really is, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot of generations, and it's not just that this land was here; it was stewarded before too. And so, just working up and respecting everybody that came before us and everybody that loves it, whether they're necessarily directly involved or not.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you both for your time, and I very much appreciated coming out here and getting to see what you guys truly do out here.
Especially now that it's raining and quite pretty out.
It is raining. What a blessing. Yes, we'll always take the rain. The grass is actually green.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for coming out.
For all you listeners, that's it. That's all we have time for today. But I encourage you guys to visit albertabeef.org to check out the full video of the Taylor's operation and really see the beauty I'm talking about, as well as Courtney's speckled park. As always, head over to abpdaily.com to get recent news updates and find out what ABP is up to. As well, be sure to get in touch with me on social media, or you can also interact with us at ABP by using the hashtag ABPsTheBovine, or you can personally catch me on my email, Cara M, that's not Cara O, Cara M, at albertabeef.org. Thanks for downloading.